Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anshul, and welcome to the group exhibit, Hydrogen Fuel Cells and Batteries at Hanover 2015. We have on stage with us Christian von Olsen. Christian von Olsen, who is a representative from HYPOS, and we're going to be talking about how Eastern Germany is going to revolutionize the world. So welcome.
Hello everybody.
Please have a seat. So just to get started, what is the motivation behind HYPOS and why the focus on hydrogen?
Yeah, well basically we have in Eastern Europe one of the biggest hydrogen pipelines in Germany, the second biggest actually, and the idea formed around how to use this pipeline in terms of the Energiewende. And everyone who's familiar with the Energiewende knows that we fight volatile power input into the electricity grid, and that there's another grid in the world that nobody really cares about, which is the big chemical grid. It's not only a storage grid, it's really a grid that can take up a lot of energy, that can release a lot of energy, that is very flexible. And around this grid, HYPOS was formed initially. Now it has spread across Germany, but it's really about making hydrogen from renewable energy to serve mobility, to serve the chemical sector, and also to do energy supply in small areas. And this is the motivation of HYPOS to bring this forward and to make it cost effective.
Okay, so could you talk a little bit about what HYPOS is and what it consists of?
Yeah, it's an association. We are about 100 members. 60 of them are companies or business partners. 40 of them are scientific institutes. 19 of them are in Western Germany, more of them are in Eastern Germany, and we have received significant funding from the GmbH and as part of the 2020 Unternehmen Region initiative. And therefore it has been, an association has been formed, and this association is there to do projects, demo projects, R&D projects, to get this whole thing going and to really do it on large scale in terms of large supply chain, big focus on hydrogen, not only on small R&D projects, but to really get it into a full system.
Okay, and so which parts of the value chain does HYPOS focus on in that case?
Well, it really looks at everything. It looks at electricity generation, it looks at the electrolysis to turn the electricity into hydrogen. It then looks at storage and transportation, and it also looks at the usage and the exploitation. So what is very important about HYPOS, it's not only R&D on how can we change the membrane a little bit, how can we increase power density. No, it's about how do we get together with the electricity grid. How do we do business models at exploitation? How can we realize transport in existing infrastructures? These are the questions that are focused on too, and it's very important to do that because we have done a lot of R&D in many processes. We are reaching the thermodynamic optimum of converting electricity into hydrogen, and the cost cut can now not come from efficiency increases or from more R&D and more R&D. It's also about business models, and it's about understanding this whole challenge of the Energiewende, and that's what HYPOS is doing.
Okay, so you've talked about a lot. Are there specific projects that you're focusing on at the moment, and is there something that is taking priority for HYPOS at this very moment that you're involved in?
Yeah, we have a first phase, and we have a couple of projects that have been allowed to move forward now. We had loads of applications, over 100 applications for projects, and a few of them only could go into the first phase. And one of them, which I'm also responsible for, is called the reversible solid oxide cell. It's basically a reversible electrolyzer.
Okay.
And it can take in energy in times when there's too much energy, and it can release energy in times when there's energy required. If I talk about energy now, I mean electric energy. So it's an electrolyzer that can work as an electrolyzer and as a fuel cell, and that has great economic advantages.
Okay, so just to elaborate a little bit more on that, what sort of scale are you looking at? What sort of size are you looking at when you're talking about this solution, this product?
Yeah, well, we want to install now something like 200 kilowatts in the Industriepark Bitterfeld within this project. Mm-hmm. And let me outline a little bit on why this is so important. With volatile energy coming into the project, into the electric grid, We need backup power. We need the fossil plants, but nobody pays for them anymore because they don't have enough capacity utilization anymore. They only have 2,000 to 3,000 hours per year. Gas power plants only have 500 hours a year anymore, no more than that. So this is not enough to pay for them, but we need them systemically. On the other hand, we need storage. We need storage systemically, but we don't have enough capacity utilization either. And if you have singular storage units and singular power plants, they fight about the capacity utilization with each other. If we can combine this into one product, which is the reversible solid oxide cell, you can run many more hours per year, and that helps the economy a lot. And we believe this is a game changer into the Energiewende, and this is why we believe this is a great project. And a consortium of, I think, 7 partners within HYPOS, and they are about to realize it first time.
Okay, but I'm assuming that even this is not going to be cheap to do, and there's costs associated with it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But if we talk about cost in electrolysis and cost of hydrogen from renewable energies, we must take into account one thing. A renewable kilowatt hour of hydrogen is always made from renewable electricity. So if a renewable kilowatt hour of electricity costs 5 cents, the renewable hydrogen cannot cost 4 cents per kilowatt hour. That's impossible. So it will cost 5 cents plus the losses associated with the process. So of course, drive losses down, have an efficiency of 92%. That's probably the practical maximum that you can achieve. So 5 cents per kilowatt hour electric means something like 6 to 7 cents per kilowatt hour of hydrogen plus the capex. So we cannot go beyond that, and that's a challenge. And this is why we need special business models to learn how to sell this kind of hydrogen into the economy and still make money for each partner and not have government funding all the time. I'm emphasizing on this so much because many people say we need to do R&D to make power to gas, and hydrogen is just one form of power to gas, more cost effective. But the power to gas plant or the electrolyzer is just a converter. It turns electric energy into hydrogen or into chemical energy. If we don't find ways to get the electric energy cheap enough, we'll never get there to have hydrogen being competitive with fossil hydrogen. And that's a tough challenge, and HYPOS has a clear roadmap to tackle that. Mm-hmm. And there are many things going on. And as I said, not only technically, but also in terms of business model. And this is why I personally find it very exciting and very helpful to do that. And one sentence on this project. We have business partners who said we must build this 200 kilowatt plant, although the technology is very young, because we don't only have to learn about the technology, but also on the business model. And we must run for 1 year to learn the business model, how to do it.
Okay. My next question is about, you said that even though it's not going to be significantly cheaper, there are significant benefits to this. And if you could potentially lay out the benefits that people will see in the future years and years to come once HYPOS has implemented the solution, how would you talk about them and how would you summarize them?
Well, I think we can talk about 3 benefits that come from renewable hydrogen and from renewable chemistry in overall, because once we talk about renewable hydrogen, many people associate with it a new hydrogen infrastructure. This is not necessarily the case. You can feed the hydrogen into the chemical grid, you can feed it into refineries. There are many sources, there are many areas that need hydrogen already now. And if we feed the hydrogen renewably into these existing demands, we can cover 3 things. First, of course, it's CO2 neutral. Secondly, we get more security of supply. It's only a tiny little bit that we can add to the amount of renewable energy brought into our system each year. But if we do that for decades, we'll get better for the future. And the third thing is it creates jobs. It creates many more jobs than fossil fuels, because fossil fuels are there and there's not enough value creation in terms of, or there's not much work required to get them out of the soil. Yeah? So it's these 3 things: CO2 neutrality, security of supply, and it creates a lot of jobs.
Okay, excellent. And so if there were some small to medium enterprises that are out in the audience there in the public, what would you say to them and say why they should get involved with HYPOS and really come and join what you're trying to achieve? And what are the benefits for them as well?
Well, HYPOS has many things. First, of course, it's got money, which is always important to do things. Secondly, it has a clear competency group that has the ability to move things forward technically, economically, politically. And the third thing is you will find partners for concrete projects. I think HYPOS is probably one of the biggest and most advanced groups in Germany to talk about hydrogen and hydrogen economy. And as HYPOS is located at a place where hydrogen isn't stored and transported far away to mobility or so, but really fed directly into an industrial environment, it can be used without all the problems that are normally associated with hydrogen. Normally you have the cost and the logistics and the pressure vessels and so on. And there you don't have that. You need to feed it directly into the existing hydrogen grid, and then you must find business models to get more for that hydrogen than for fossil hydrogen. And there the biofuel quota and things like this can help. And we have the ability and the knowledge and the partners to do that. And now it's a matter of really doing it and making this a success.
So would your eventual goal be not just Eastern Germany and now that you're starting to work with Western Germany, but all of Germany and eventually Europe?
Well, as you said it in the beginning, HYPOS is to revolutionize, sorry for that, the hydrogen economy coming out of Eastern Germany. It's a role model, and we'll do many things to really show that a demo plant can work in an industrial environment with an existing business model. And then, of course, we need to roll it out. So come, participate, learn, share the burden of the costs in the beginning, and then go out and enroll it in your area, market, geography, wherever you are.
And reap the benefits.
Yes.
So just speaking about the role of hydrogen, and obviously this is HYPOS's focus, what do you see it in sort of playing in the next 10 years in the energy sector? Where do you see hydrogen playing its most important role, and how do you see it going forward?
Well, we all know that after the Energiewende there has been a great hype of power to gas. Then there has been a disappointment because we saw that power to gas is too expensive and cannot compete with fossil gas. And now people have learned that we need to introduce those renewable chemicals into special markets. And these special markets are in the mobility sector, they're in the biofuel quota, which is linked to the mobility sector, but they will also be in the chemistry. And we know from politicians and people who talk about the future processes to do funding that the green chemistry will be, from my point of view, the seeding ground for renewable hydrogen. And it will not be 10, 20, 30% of the hydrogen being replaced by renewable hydrogen in the next 10 years. It may only be 10%. But if you look at just those 10%, what amounts of energy are behind this and how much money you can earn on those, it's for small and medium enterprises and also for large enterprises a huge business. And I'm sure that the political and the regulatory environments will be set to do that, and will be a step-by-step approach, but I'm sure that Europe will move towards renewable hydrogen as a replacement for fossil hydrogen from steam reformers, and this will come step by step to not make the burden too big for the industry, and then we'll get there. And HYPOS is just one of those places where it happens, and I find in a very advanced group, and feel very comfortable there.
So then do you think that HYPOS will be the next role model for the rest of the world and how to do things right? Well,
this is certainly, there are many role models, and we'll see where we get, and of course have to compare it to others. But for Germany, with a strong chemical industry and with lots of renewable energy now in the grid, HYPOS certainly has a chance to give examples and learnings, like many others have too. So I would say, let's not say this is the one role model. Let's have many role models and then compare. But what I can only recommend is not to do too many small demo projects, but rather join together in big groups like HYPOS or Chemcoast or however you call them, and let's say, come on, let's do one big demo project with many partners, share the burden of the cost, because the learnings will be the same for everyone, and the cost will be less. And I think HYPOS is an opportunity.
Fantastic, thank you. Do any of our audience members have any questions for Christian? Yeah.
Jan Maas from Düsseldorf. I have a question. You said you mentioned the numbers or prices for electricity. You buy it for, you said 5 cents per kilowatt an hour. If I understood, is it on the wholesale market where you can buy this power, and then the prices you sell? You mentioned, I think 6, 7, 8 cents, something like this. Is it also a wholesale market, or where do you need to pay for EEG-Umlage, or how are these numbers? I didn't understand it.
Yeah, thanks for the question, and good to put it right. This was just a calculation example that has nothing to do with the real market currently. In most cases, we have to pay the EEG-Umlage. And therefore prices for electricity are much higher. Therefore they are something like 11, 15, 16 cents per kilowatt hour, and then you are not able to produce hydrogen at any rate at a price level that is competitive. If the legislation changes towards hydrogen not paying the EEG-Umlage, you could probably have sites where you pay only 5 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour, or even 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour. And then you get into a range where you are about to compete with fossil hydrogen, but this will take a long time, because then you need to have the capex very low.
So if anyone else has any more questions, unfortunately we're out of time, but I would encourage you to go out to B44 and have a chat and just try and get involved, and hopefully this has inspired you to join HYPOS in their vision of making hydrogen a reality for Eastern Germany.
Thank you very
so
much. Thank you. Thank you for your time.